Wasn't expecting those questions. Were you? I thought we'd be put on the spot too. Thankfully, they're not throwing the questions at us through the debate and catching us off guard. I wonder why they gave us the time to write down our answers beforehand. Perhaps. It is much easier to recall truths than lies. And if it's about reform, then it shows we've thought about it enough to understand the measures. Still, I was looking forward to running those circles around you. I'll pencil another time into my schedule. Don't think I'll forget. It's something to look forward to. Well, I wouldn't say I don't have much to entertain me. You're just nice to watch sometimes. In various ways. Though I prefer the times you're forced to hold back when I know you want nothing more than to hurl heated words at me. And fists on occasion. Maybe I do deserve them. Maybe I don't. That's a matter of debate, too, isn't it? Not everything is a debate to me. Plenty of what we talk about isn't cut and dry. It's not black and white, and neither will the responsibilities of being an eminence. Even with the positions we have now, there's always something to weigh, something to prioritize. Honestly, it's because of that thinking that I'm standing here at this podium, waiting to be judged for my beliefs. I weighed the options. I'm not stuck here. I want this, and I'll do what I need to. Oh, I'm ready. Are you? I bet you are. All these years, trained for the job we're fighting for. I'm curious to know what you'll do if you aren't chosen. I like the confidence. I wonder if the judges will like it too. Have you heard anything about them? Do you know who they are? So we're both in the dark. Well, we'll find out soon enough. Ah, perfect.
Good afternoon, my heiress. Zaros.
Afternoon.
Apologies for the wait. The judges needed some time to review your answers for this debate. I know you weren't expecting to write them down beforehand, but it was requested by the judges.
I see.
Let me introduce all of them to you personally, and then I'll repeat it later for our records. So, from left to right, we have Savo Lingred, the High Magister of Law, Nayena Vont, the Chain of Business, Eldest Melora, the High Seer of our Faith, Ilian Kroster, the Chain of Economy, and Olmi Svainleif, Arch-Exalter of our Four Nations. These judges are responsible for selecting who will be the next eminence of Cerula.
We are honored to be part of such a historic moment of Cerulean history. We will judge appropriately and for the realms. Good luck to the both of you, and speak with candor.
Thank you, Arch-Exalter. And thank you all for your service.
Before we start, I would first like to clarify some things. First of all, for this trial, we have a transcriber who will be recording the debate, so pay them no mind. The 5 questions were presented to you in the adjacent room about an hour ago. You were tasked with writing down your answers to each question in one sentence to solidify your ideas and to use them in the debate that is about to take place. I will read the question, the answer that was written by one of you, where you will be given the opportunity to elaborate. Once you have, the other can counter that argument with their own opinion. After, their answer will be read, and further elaboration plus one more counter will be allowed. Time is not an issue, so you can pace yourself and give your opponent room to talk. There's no need to interrupt one another. If you disagree, you will have your moment to express it. Do you both understand?
Yes.
Brilliant. The second trial will begin now. Thus begins the debate for the fifth contention on the 11th day of Zeith's Rhine, year 1062, presided over by the current Sile Exalter, Argil Farvanos. The candidates: the current heiress, child to the current eminence, Queen Rowena Dysan Ilves, and Zaros Kaiman Athalin, chosen contender by Nera Talandi Athalin. The judges: Savo Lingred, the High Magister of Law; Nayena Vont, the Chan of Business; Eldis Melora, the High Seer of Vidanity; Ilian Kroster, Chan of Economy; and Olmi Svainleif, current Arch-Exalter who mediates and counsels our four nations. The first question asked by the High Magister is as follows: what does Cerula and its future mean to you? Sal Zaros answered, Cerula is home with a glorious past, but improvement is necessary for glory to continue. Sal Zaros, please explain your answer to the judges.
Cerula fills me with pride. Not only are we the seat of power, we have a history that extends back for over 1,000 years. We have solidified our mark on the realm, so much so that our neighboring allies acknowledge the weight of our dominion. They have accepted themselves as being one of four nations dedicated to making the land and each other prosperous. Cerula means freedom and growth and stability for many more generations. And I think there are issues in which Cerula can improve to ensure our mark in history is not always sullied by the mistakes that have been made. I fear that without proper growth and the inability to see beyond what Cerula is currently, our power may decline.
Decline how?
With agreements that aren't amended or upgraded. Little pursuits of exploration beyond what we are as four nations. We've managed to grow with their help, but we need to remind them of our power and not succumb to theirs.
My heiress, your counter?
And if, in your mind, Cerula has only just begun, how far do you think it can go?
The heiress answered, Cerula means progression, and that its foundation has the strength to balance more dominions than the four nations. My heiress, would you like to add anything else? Sal Zaros, your counter.
I agree that Cerula has the strength to add more dominions, but I don't believe that we should attempt to be the dominant realm, as the Iris mentioned. Our culture is not more or less important than others, even though we may share some qualities. And we need to show support for our allies and not quash their cultures for our own.
The second question, asked by the Chan of Business, is as follows. What are your two core values, and how do they shape the way you lead? The heiress answered, knowledge, integral to informing future decisions, and courage, to challenge current ideals for a better Cerula. My heiress, please elaborate on your first core value.
And you believe your knowledge to be enough for an eminence?
Your counter?
I don't believe that knowledge is everything. I agree that making ill-informed decisions bodes well for only those who gain from it. But even an arsenal of knowledge can't equip you for the difficult choices that arise when you have the responsibility of millions. Knowledge is power, yes, and the Iris has an ample amount of it. But just because you have knowledge doesn't mean you're able to apply it when needed.
Sal Zaros answered, "Compassion, necessary to understand the grievances of all Cerulean people, and wisdom, to seek counsel from those more qualified in their specialized fields." Please elaborate on your first core value.
Compassion is a fundamental core of society. It's a type of benevolence that shapes the future of a dominion. Any land can claim great power however they deem fit, but it's up to the people whether it crumbles or prevails. I believe that compassion for those we have neglected will transform Cerula as we know it. The less fortunate have just as much reason to be heard and to be looked after like all others. If the country remains one that's only concerned with money, then what about those without it? What of those who, if given a chance, could propel Cerula forward? One kind hand is more effective than 1,000 deaf ears.
Have you seen this for yourself?
Yes. There's a town south of the Monmouth River in the province of Lethian. You've heard of Varas.
Yes, by the coast. Wonderful place.
3 years ago, the flood almost destroyed Varas, including more profitable cities like Senkar. But majority of the relief effort went to Senkar because business owners were guaranteed to receive aid, and that city was becoming a hub. Less than 30 people were sent to Varas. I volunteered to help. The region itself lost homes, lost their loved ones. But Varas was hit the hardest. They had given up hope. They believed no one cared for their quaint fishing village because the leader had been waiting for confirmation on a government loan for 7 months to expand their trade. And they heard nothing. I stayed there for a time, helping where I could. I listened to their stories and their dreams of wanting Varas to be the best fishing port in the country. Not for themselves, the country. I've found that whoever society deems the lowest tend to have the purest dreams. So my family offered them money to rebuild. And 3 years later, it is now one of the most profitable fishing ports in the country. Without compassion, no one is seen or heard, and nothing will change for the better.
My heiress, your counter? You have none. Very well. Then please elaborate on your second core value, courage.
When has your courage been tested? And by foregoing your duties for that second, pursuing and disarming that robber saved a man's life.
Zaros, your counter?
It is unfortunate the Iris had to resort to such measures in Kalad's capital. They are courageous, that I have no doubt, but too much of it can quickly evolve into recklessness. There is also courage to confront, and it should only be considered when all other options are void. In the case of life and death, courage to take initiative is vital. But for other long-term endeavors, courage to be patient is another thing entirely, especially for one who likes to challenge.
Zaros, please elaborate on your second core value, wisdom.
It is what all rulers need. And I'm not only talking about my own small drop of wisdom, but the ocean of those around me. That core value to listen to it, weigh it, and then implement it is what makes for a long-lasting country. I don't have all the answers. I've traveled and experienced a variety of lives and cultures. I've tried to absorb their wisdom on how to build a society, a community. As a whole, it's not enough. But I believe there is a certain wisdom in knowing when an idea is better than your own. Sarula deserves to be made by 1,000 voices and one.
Whose voices do you mean?
Scholars, soldiers, teachers, the fishers and builders, and those in every other occupation I know next to nothing about. I don't understand how I should be expected to make decisions on their behalf, not knowing what they truly need. And the only way I'll know is if I listen to them.
My heiress, your counter.
So, wisdom for you depends on physical evidence of its quality.
The third question, asked by the High Seer, is as follows. What do you believe are the major issues affecting our country, and what would you do about these issues? The heiress answered, the potential stagnation of Sarula, and the need to continue forward. My heiress, please elaborate on your answer.
Do you believe that achievements of Sarulan citizens will bring us out of this stagnation? So, in order to pursue our potential, what would be your action to advance Sarula?
Zaros, your counter.
I think it's a wonderful idea. Creating incentives to stimulate growth would have many people wanting to strive for the best. But I must ask the heiress, how do those with nothing contribute and take advantage of these incentives? Resources solely for rectifying stagnation. I see.
Zaros answered, inequality of the country's citizens and the need to fight for fairness. Please elaborate on your answer.
For Sarula, for it to remain a great nation and to surpass itself, I think the current state of our own disparity should be addressed. The Social Trust Union have calculated the unfair wages of this country. They've shown that all essential jobs, the food, the infrastructure, medicine, jobs that are necessary for Sarula to function, aren't met with the same honor and glory as that of the nobles. According to the STU, the annual salary of farmers was 2,000 rukul. The annual salary of miners, 2,300 rukul. The annual salary of Dagon Ponvilus, a known criminal who visits jails across the nation and talks about his changed ways, 4,500 rukul. A noble who dishonors Sarulan law makes more than those who honor Sarula in the highest form. It is an insult to their long years of labor and their loyalty to our laws.
My heiress, your counter.
The nobles might offer support with donations, but if there weren't any unfair wages, there wouldn't be a need for their support in the first place. We're only salving the solution, not solving it.
And how would you solve it?
I would make the pay reflect the work. Long hours of toil should be rewarded what it's worth. The noble families are pillars, yes, and they have been for generations. But we would not be able to stand if not for the people. And I think we must pay it forward. Not with planned visits and a full itinerary of empty promises to make. With actual pay, actual physical change. And in order to keep things equal, I'd also adjust tax rates. Temporarily, if need be, but for enough time so that citizens flourish and Sarula will follow.
The fourth question, asked by the Chan of Economy, is as follows. If you became the next eminence, what would be your first act? Zaros answered, strengthening Cerula
Actually,
as...
I would like to hear from the Iris first, if you don't mind, Sile Exalter.
Of course. The Eris answered, strengthening the bond of Cerula's allies. My Eris, please elaborate on your answer.
And how do you propose celebrating the cultural diversity of our allies? So, not only can all citizens compete for these prizes and recognition, but it'll be open to the public, like a show.
Zaros, your counter? Zaros?
My counter, yes. Well, it's... making such an event will strengthen the bonds between the nations, and it may prompt others to be brought into the fold. But organizing such an event will take time, and though for a first act it is ambitious, it could also be a detriment to our finances if it's unsuccessful. Yes.
Zaros answered, strengthening Cerula's position in the nations. Please elaborate on your answer.
The current position of Cerula, though above the others, is beginning to balance with our allied nations. Therefore, in order to maintain our power and reach further, I would propose an overhaul with our education system. Estrin is a prime example of a broad range of subjects that extend to more than Cerula. Language, history, culture, ideology. It's reserved for those who can afford it. But there is a clear contrast between knowledge of our citizens. Is it not better for Cerula to grow together in a healthy manner rather than a competitive one?
What would be your solution?
Equip our children with a noble's education. There are few who can afford the highest, and a handful have made progress for Cerula. But if the many were given such resources, our progress would not only propel Cerula forward, it would solidify our hold and our power.
My Eris, your counter?
So, though you think funding is a problem, the devaluation of standards could make Cerula's education worse, because a balance may not be established.
Now, for the final question, asked by the Arch-Exalter. There will be no counter. This is purely an opinion of yourself. What would cause you to fail as a ruler? Zaros answered, when I lose the faith of the people. Zaros, please elaborate on your answer.
Cerula is not land, and in truth, Cerula is not power. It's society defines us. That's how you know what a country prioritizes. Just look at the lives of their people, how they're treated. I have made it my mission to cultivate a relationship with those who feel ignored so they can trust me to carry their words. They speak through me, and I act in their stead. That relationship, to earn their trust, is hard to make, but simple to break. And I strongly think that faith of the people will outlive everything, and what remains will be Cerula's definition forever. The moment I lose sight of them and their trust of me, I lose sight of Cerula. That is when I know I have failed.
Does your sight include everyone?
It does. As I've mentioned earlier, I believe there to be an imbalance between our citizens, and it must be corrected for all of us to move forward as a united nation. Therefore, some things must be sacrificed. and others must be added to reach that equality.
The heiress answered, "When I relinquish control to self-doubt." My heiress, please elaborate on your answer.
And does this doubt also include potential change that offers value to the situation? So it is better for you to have full faith in yourself, rather than half of everyone else's.
Thus ends the debate of the heiress to Queen Rowena Dysan Ilves and Sal Zaros Kaiman Athalin, chosen contender by Nira Talandi Athalin. You can end the transcription after writing your name. Thank you. Very good debate. You both did well. Unfortunately, your time here must be cut short so the judges can deliberate with fresh minds. Take the rest of the day to relax. You've earned it.
Thank you. Of course, you thought it went well. Come here. Would it have gone equally as well if you didn't take my idea? I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. You talked so much about heeding counsel and listening to others, touting how you've changed and that I'm the one with the prejudice. But I should have known you'd stoop to this level to win. You always do whatever you can to win. So much of a good idea that you had to steal it for your own sake. So any idea is free game, is it? As long as it's not written in stone. I thought... I suppose this is just a part of who you are. You are someone who can't let go. You're defined by your insecurities, whatever they may be, and Cerula will perish because of it. That I know. You might have felt entitled to the position, and I don't blame you for it. But I fear that power has already gone straight to your head. Do you? Are you sure you have a grip on your power? Because you don't show it. I turned a blind eye towards it, but I should have trusted my instincts when you wanted that mock debate in the garden. Now that I think about it, was that why you were so eager to get the good wine? So that I'd drink more, lower my defenses, you can squeeze all my ideas out of me and then use them for the debate. It's hard to believe you had no agenda considering what you just did. I managed to improvise because that event wasn't the only idea I had. I am constantly thinking about how to better this country. So, what does that say about you? I'm saying, you clearly didn't know what your first act would be if you became the next eminence, or you knew yours wouldn't surpass my own. So you took it. Couldn't come up with anything original. Not even original. Genuine. You think you could do a better job implementing it? I'd actually like to see that. Always confident for the wrong reasons. That self-doubt of yours would prove useful right about now. You're smart, aren't you? Knowledgeable and courageous. Figure it out, leech. Good day. Good evening, my ears. What brings you here at this time? Wrong turn in the corridor? Did you lose a bet? Who am I to deny your request? Come in. I take the more scenic route to get to where I need to be. That's probably why you haven't seen me. I go where you aren't. I'd call it avoiding rather than hiding. Why are you so interested in my whereabouts? Surely you'd know. You have ears everywhere, don't you? Or was a week without us speaking too lonesome for you? Then why are you here? Does no one else want to play with you? I don't need to tell you why I've been keeping to myself. I'm allowed to. I don't have to talk to you every day, nor do I have to show my face to anyone else. By all means, take a seat. You're acting like a child, you know? Not leaving until you get what you want. Fine. Seeing as you're dying to know where I've been, I decided to borrow one of your teachers. He's helping with my sparring techniques, and I'm combining theory with application. Yes, the very same. He couldn't wait to praise you, being one of the only students who managed to disarm him, but I see why Hellemar has his accolades. His movement is incredible. The duel is coming. I don't know when, but it's one of the only trials I think is guaranteed, so might as well train as much as I can before the announcement. So, now that you know, have a nice night. I would rather sit here, drawing the cerulean skies. The more I talk, the more fuel you have to steal. I'm not upset, I'm cautious. I've learnt my lesson, so any form of courtesy from you is something I'd like to do without, if you don't mind. I'm sure you coming here was to satisfy your own curiosity. There's nothing courteous about it. Then why did you come? What do you want? What did your mother tell you? You're kidding. 2 trials in, and there's already conspiracy to favor you. Did she find out which noble member bribed Ilian? He was the one who asked us about what our first act would be when we became ruler. Do you remember? He wanted you to answer first. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. How long has your mother known? 3 days. I suppose I should count my blessings I was informed at all. But I don't understand it. Why that judge? The answers... Well, that was the only question where our answers would have been the same. It's almost as if they knew beforehand. You didn't know about the questions prior, did you? Did your mother? And right now, I have to take your word for it. You'd tell me just to rub it in my face that you have the advantage, so I have to consider it. But if you didn't know, and your mother didn't know, but a noble family bribed them to have you answer before me, what are we missing here? Well, I told my mother about the idea during our own debates. She helped me refine it, And it makes no sense to bet against her own son. No, my family is the only noble family that has nothing to do with this. Well, at least we agree on that. But other than her, no one else knew. I don't understand it either. But I'm not surprised it happened. I was honestly waiting for it. Sabotage of some kind. There are people out there who can't stand the thought of someone like me ruling. And obviously, they'll do anything to stop it from happening. They will try anything. And something tells me this is just the beginning. The bribe? It's evidence that there are workings beyond the Queen. If they can bypass her power and work behind her, then I have no chance. A part of me wanted to believe the trials would be fair, that there is one sliver of equity at the highest level of this nation. But this is the path the gods have laid for me. There's no room for me to give up, and I don't intend to. I will see this to the end, even if I think this whole trial is a farce. The odds of me winning grow smaller each day. If I lose, I lose. But I'll still try my best. Think of the shock the Underminers would be in if I won, despite their best efforts to keep me off the throne. That alone is what I'm striving for. You are the last person who can call me petty. But yes, I do feel a sense of happiness picturing them looking dumbstruck. It motivates me to try even harder. And why should I thank you? Just because you told me? Well, it depends why. It always depends with you and whatever your agenda is. If it was out of kindness, you would have told me earlier. So, the other and more likely option is that you wanted to crush my hopes a little, reminding me that no matter how hard I try, there are forces at work that are actively plotting for my loss. And why do I need to know? It doesn't change anything, it just solidifies what I always thought. Does your mother intend to make an announcement about it? Don't you think Cerula has a right to know that the decision for the next eminence is being manipulated? It doesn't matter if they don't decide. What do you think would happen if you win and the people find out there was a conspiracy from within this whole time? They'd throw Queen Rowena's trust into the dirt, and they certainly wouldn't trust you. Well, that's not my call to make, so let's see how it all plays out. I will watch. I can't do anything else. Why? What will you do? You have nothing I want that warrants stealing. There's no excitement in that. I like to get things I've earned. I would like to earn the throne, yes. Giving it up means owning it in the first place, which you never have. I would have expected you to take it much later in life, but this is the path the gods have laid for you. Well, mostly all new eminences are given the title because the current one passed away. This time is especially interesting, not just because Queen Rowena is still alive, but because of the trials as well. She was probably expecting to retire much earlier. Precisely, if not for my mother. Yes, I do intend to draw for a little longer. The silhouette of the city from up here is beautiful. Why are you still hovering? Wanting to is not good enough. I like to draw alone. Unless you're staying because you want me to draw your silhouette. I thought so. Sleep well, my Eris. And don't hover around my room for too long or I'll get the wrong idea.